Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Project New Earth podcast. Today, I have the other half of the Your Mind is Trying to Kill You podcast, and many other things behind that. His name is Alexandros Megas, and I'm very excited for you to be here and to have that conversation with you.
Thank you, brother. You as well.
Um, we were talking before about your podcasts and your episodes that they always strike something in, at least in the people who like to analyze themselves and to actually think for themselves, for a change.
Right. Well, you know, as I always say, the people who don't like to think for themselves will have to have somebody else to think for them. So, as I've said as part of my podcast, if you don't control yourself, someone else will. Your
For
mind.
sure. Hmm.
If you don't control your mind, someone else will. So I'm the kind of person that doesn't prefer to let someone else think for me, you know. But sometimes this kind of behavior is, this kind of outlook, this kind of lifestyle, this kind of thinking, philosophy is not the widely accepted kind. Uh, because it brings up a lot of thorns. When you go into an old wound and you poke it, it hurts. It's not pleasurable. But as far as I'm concerned, what's the alternative? If you don't poke it, then you stay there with a wound that underneath it all keeps festering forever, and there will be a point that it will poison you. It'll take you down. So I prefer to, do my maintenance, if you will. It's like having a car, right? Having a car and never doing maintenance of the car.
Hmm.
What's that? Oil change? Fuck that. Who needs that shit? That's bullshit. There will be a time where you'll be driving and the car will break down. And then you'll be forced to do the maintenance
Hmm. Yeah.
in a hurry.
And many times people wait for exactly that moment,
Of course.
sometimes even a bit further before.
Sometimes they don't even do it when the car breaks down. They just abandon the car.
Hmm. Or that, yeah.
They're like,
Just
oh, yeah, I'll
leave
just get another car.
leave it here on the road.
Yeah. Well, that's what
Absolutely, yeah.
happens with most relationships. People. I mentioned the car, and then the relationship came to mind because that's what a relationship is for a lot of people. You see, it's something that they cannot access, they cannot fix, they cannot process, and so they'd rather drop it and just go for another one. Of course, what they don't know is that what created the problem in the first one will most likely be there and perhaps even amplified on the next one. So you can't run away from your shadow, man.
Exactly. And in your, do you think that people are, let's use the so frequently used term, waking up more than before?
Yeah, I do. I don't know if the numbers are critical, but definitely waking up. It's just, it's when there's a lot of discomfort, um,
Hmm.
it tends to shake the illusion the mirage kind of image that you maintained in your life, most of your life.
Yeah.
And when you realize that this image is not really your reality, you have no choice but to start waking up. And then, of course, the rabbit hole just begins.
Yeah, for sure. The funny thing is that the deeper you go into the rabbit hole, it gets more interesting.
Well,
More,
more interesting. It's a nice way of putting it, because it gets scarier for most people.
yeah, but yeah, I guess, yeah, maybe.
But I like the interesting part. I think of it this way as well. But you know, most people are only either equipped or are just interested in fixing the surface um, issues. They don't care to. Oh, that's like that kind of thing is like for another occasion, which never comes, of course.
Yeah.
So as we say all the time in my podcast, we live in autopilot. Most people do. You
And
know,
it is most people.
it is most people. Yes, I know. I use that term a lot, but
But it's true. I mean, I find myself use it many times as well, and I always think of you when I do that, because I always hear it on your podcast. But yeah, it's true, because if you look around, in your whatever, however far you can see, it's like that. It,
yeah, it is absolutely. And the thing is that, see, when I talk about these things, I I catch myself on the fly. This is why I make these kind of comments,
hmm
because this is when you manage to um, get ahead of your mind uh, by exercising this kind of philosophy, this kind of frame of mind on a daily basis. Many times you get ahead of yourself. Like I say something and immediately I catch myself saying it, and sometimes I clarify that because it can be misconstrued. You know what I mean?
hmm
Like I have actually used the term most people talking to a friend of mine, and he corrected me like, "Oh, you can't say that, it's a blanket statement."
yeah, that's. But I mean, yeah, you have to meet people where they are, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So fine. I mean, it doesn't have to be most people, but a lot
Yeah,
of people.
yeah. Certain percentage of people.
Yeah.
huh.
So ask me anything. What do you want to know?
Huh. What do I want to know? Well, I guess I would, if I ask any of the questions, I might repeat any of the topics you have talked about in your podcast.
That's fine. I don't mind repeating.
But yeah, on the topic that I do feel the same, that people are more and more people are suddenly begin to ask questions that they never did before, and I feel positive about that in a way. Yeah, for sure.
Of course. Why wouldn't you?
Mm, Tell me in your in when you work with people, because for the audience who do not know you, uh, you're a hypnotist, you're an artist, you're as we
I
said,
mean,
a podcast host as well.
and a musician and a
Yeah,
filmmaker.
exactly.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah, exactly. I know exactly what I want to ask you. It's why do you think people don't do what they know they should do, even though they know it will be good for them, they still don't do it. Why?
Like,
Why?
give me an example. Give me an example.
Well, let's say for creating habits, for instance. You know that doing certain things, you know that knowing yourself, you know that if you incorporate those things in your day, that will, let's say, let's use dramatically increase your chance of going forward and not sitting on one place or even going backwards. And you do want to do all those things and you know that it's going to be good for you, but you still don't do it. Why
Right.
it is what's the reason for that, in your
Because
opinion?
because you've already, this isn't in my opinion. It's actually a fact.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Uh, um, every time you need to create a new habit, you have to first dedicate as much energy on creating the new habit as you have dedicated on the previous habit that you want to break.
mhm,
You see, it's like, for example, if you have spent 10 years of your life religiously eating junk food,
mhm.
you can't in a week make this turn around and start eating healthy and liking it unless someone has a gun to your head. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Or unless, I guess, someone tells you, like a doctor or whatever, tells you you're about half past dead. You're gonna die. You got cancer, whatever. You know what I mean?
mhm,
But that, even as I've said before, many times that doesn't even stop people. Like, people, I've had family members that were diagnosed with lung cancer, and they couldn't stop smoking. Yeah, because smoking was just more pleasurable than life, I guess.
yeah, yeah.
Well, it's because the subconscious mind, being a child, as I've mentioned many times,
Mhm,
doesn't understand the concept of death. You see, it doesn't understand the concept of death. Death doesn't mean shit to a child. If you go talk to a child, they got death. No, unless the child has experienced firsthand the loss, of someone loved, the
mhm.
child doesn't understand that. The child is the definition of life, right? So that's what the subconscious mind is. It's like, in our mind is our inner child. So the inner child is interested in having fun and getting a whole bunch of pleasure, and will
Yeah,
not embark on creating any new habits, creating any new step into new avenues, unless there's a big payout that is visible to the child. It has to be visible. Like, give an example. In the in the case of the person who's like overweight, right? The person's overweight. Uh, all of a sudden, the person realizes how morbidly overweight they are. Of course, they don't care about their health. It's bullshit. Health doesn't matter.
yeah.
But what matters is that I look like shit. And now my wife left me and I need to find a new mate.
Mhm.
How am I going to do that? Right? And summer's coming up and chicks need to dig me. Right? So that becomes a priority. See how you're going to be received in society on this level, because of course we do live in a society that values the outer the most, more than ever before, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong. But something like that creates an imperative for the subconscious mind to start working on it. It's like, okay, we have no choice here. Because it's either admitting that, oh, I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life, which is very hurtful to the child. It's a hurtful proposition. Or I have to take some drastic measures. So the subconscious mind is being summoned here as a god or a goddess to provide the energy needed to get there. And in cases like that, he will do that because it feels like its very own existence is threatened. Its very own pleasurable existence, rather, is threatened. So it will make an investment because that's that kind of investment. It's like I will invest in trimming down whatever it is that entails in exchange for the pleasure of having a mate or multiple mates and enjoy myself, on the on the game of dating or the sexual pleasures of life or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Does this answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And I know that you've talked about it many times that to actually follow the thing that you have to do and you want to do, you need to have a good enough reason for that.
That's right.
And how do you find a good enough reason?
It's what I just mentioned. The good enough reason is to be able to find mates, playmates, if you will. These are people that you can play with. Because it's all play at the end of the day, right? Because if you look at it from the perspective of the child, so that's a reason. I give another reason. I am, I go up a flight of stairs and I have to catch my breath for 3 minutes, and my little child wants to play with me and I can't play with them. That's a reason. It's got to be a deep emotional reason. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's because anything else, anything superficial will not do. It's got to be an emotional reason because the way that I am right now is preventing me from ... whatever your issue is, So if you're being prevented from being the person that you want to be, the person that you want to be emotionally, then there's a problem. And the problem has to be addressed. And that kind of thing happens when your subconscious mind, which is really the true driver of your behavior, engages. That's how change happens.
Mm-hmm. And your paintings and your art, how did you start doing that? I don't think I know that.
Yeah, well, it's funny you should ask that because I was actually getting ready to put down that story because I am creating and enhancing a forum both online and at a little gallery that I have here nearby where I live, where I sell my prints. Prints off of my originals, that is. So,
Mm-hmm.
actually, my amazingly enough, my artwork is what led me to my mind inquiries. It's what led me to becoming a hypnotherapist. It's what led me to becoming a shamanic practitioner, a magician, all this. Because I was at a very low point. I was very can you say highly depressed, or I guess lowly depressed, whatever the case may be. And I just didn't want to do anything. I was in what anyone who's experienced depression knows what that feels like.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very debilitating thing to live with, and there's very little that you can do about it because it's all you've already, in essence, locked your inner child into a cellar, and lack of interaction with that inner child will do that to you. But then, first of all, if you don't know anything about it, secondly, if you can't even get yourself to, as I say, for example, if you don't have legs and you need to get up and go somewhere, you unless it's like your very life, your survival is threatened, you will deflect any idea of doing so. So, in other words, when you're down there, you just prefer to stay down there. You just find ways because we can find ways to comfort ourselves, like in any situation. And that's why we know that there's a lot of women that are being abused, right? By their spouse or their whatever insignificant other, that they just stay in their relationship. Why do they stay? Because they've been programmed to believe that it takes a lot more out of them to step out than it takes for them to endure. So, as far as they're concerned, it's easier to endure what's going on than change it. So, if we need to step out of something like that, we need to have like I said before, a really, really good reason. Like, what's a good reason? You might say, if you're in an abusive relationship like that, and you have a kid, and that kid gets abused, that could be a reason that you snap out of it. But going back to whatever was happening to me, I was alone. I had come to the U.S., New York specifically, to study, and I was all alone. I was stepping from at the age of like 20 or so, from the nest really to the wolf's or lion's mouth, because that's what New York felt like to me. It was a massive departure, right? And I didn't have any kind of way to counteract that. It was like go 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 go. I didn't have a way to emotionally deal with this as if it were a healthy endeavor. So it was a constant chase. It's as if I was being chased by like wolves on a daily basis. And when you are in a fight or flight situation for a while, you can easily step into one of those two modes. Either you become like manic and crazy, or you just let go and you become depressed. You just fuck it. I don't give a shit. I don't care anymore. So I found myself in this second category. And so I was dragging myself, from one room to the other, if you will, for a while. And it became apparent to me, because this is against my nature, that there was something wrong here. It wasn't going well. And as I figured this out, I started having visions. And in those visions, I would see, I guess, in my mind's eye, angels or entities that were talking to me. They were telling me what to do. They were inviting me to make a shift. And in the beginning, it was that was entertaining to me, but I was like, yeah, I mean, whatever. Like, I'm just hallucinating. But I realized that the more I put that off, the more persistent those visions were. And it was kind of like, someone nagging you, like poking you, like 24 hours a day. Someone, fuck, okay, fine. And if you have kids, which you don't, I guess, to your knowledge, you'll find that out soon, how that works. So I started engaging, I started responding, I started paying attention. And in those kind of thought bubbles or emotional bubbles, vision bubbles, one might say, I was getting instructed to start creating images that I was seeing in those visions. At the time, I was a graphic designer. I was like fine art / graphic designer major in school. And I had been out of school. I was working as a graphic designer, I guess. And I hadn't think of the possibility of turning design into fine art. So, propelled by this kind of nagging visions, I started doing that. And I always said that, when I create stuff, I almost black out. People sometimes ask me, hey, what, what was your, like, how did you do that? And I don't know what to tell them, because I am not there many times, like I as the person you're talking to. So the more I discovered that the more I was engaging and creating those pieces, the better I felt. I started feeling motivated again. I started feeling inspired, which inspired means that all of a sudden you're finding a light at the end of the tunnel. That's what inspiration is all about. I have one of my latest podcasts being labeled inspiration, by the way. So inspiration is something that all of us are in need of, not just the people who creatively express themselves, like a painter or whatever, sculptor, an artist, or a musician. It's something that everyone needs, because inspiration is that part that awakes that inner child into being interested and engaging. Because if you can't have the inner child interested in engaging, then you're shit out of luck. Nothing's going to happen. Right? You're going to stay in that festering space, and you will keep on getting worse. That's what most people don't realize, that when you're in a place like that, when you are depressed, when you are bipolar, whatever, you're not like, some people. Some people, I had some friends that I urged them to start working together to help them get out of where they were, and they were like, "Yeah, it's now it's not a good time, I'll let you know." To which I replied, "If now is not a good time, later will be a worse time."
Yeah.
Because what happens is that it's like having a raging virus in you. Virus.
Yeah.
Everyone's familiar with that word. It's like having the raging virus in you, or a cancer. Let's just put it this way. Let's say having a cancer in you, and just putting it off for like another day. Yeah, I'll deal with it. I'll deal with it in a couple of months. I'm too busy now. Clearly, in a couple of months, maybe too late to deal with it. So
Hmm.
this is like that because it's as if we're talking about negative programming here. We're talking about limiting beliefs, right? Because that's what this is about. So when those limiting beliefs are in there, when they happen, when they start manifesting, they're not just they don't stop there. It's like then you get a computer virus. Like, see, a lot of people are familiar with that. If you get a computer virus, in the beginning you see some glitches here and there. Day after day, shit's going nuts because
Yeah.
that the code that is the virus will keep on spreading. That's its job.
Hmm.
Its job is to keep on spreading until it completely consumes you. That's the job of a virus, right? So there is no safe place to be and hibernate when you realize that this is what's going on. You have to take action immediately, yesterday. And of course, there are several ways to do that, you know, but that's another story. Um, so there you go. It is something that needs to be addressed immediately. And most people are plagued with all kinds of limiting beliefs, all kinds of programming, so debilitating that they don't even know that it's negative programming. You realize how ironic that is? It's
Hmm.
because to so many people, this way of life has been their normal existence for too long.
Yep.
So they don't even know something is wrong
Hmm.
because they think that's what life is about. It's like the Matrix. Like, oh, everyone who's plugged in the movie doesn't know that, yeah, everyone's busy going to work or do whatever. They don't pause to figure out, to realize, where am I right now? What's going on? No, because it's everyday life. It's business as usual in the woods, as they say. So uh, that's what's going on with most people. So why would you try to fix something that you don't even know is broken? Right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But broken it is, believe me. There is nobody on this planet, unless you're like some kind of levitating Tibetan monk, that is not being chased by debilitating, limiting beliefs, including myself, of course.
For sure, yeah. But that I think that's the, let's say, the cool part of the, even with in those podcasts that you do and that I do and that many other people do, that you get to see other points of view, and to see that actually maybe there is another way that you can approach this, and it's probably might be very different than the one that you're using right now.
Yeah.
And you see that, because separation is another thing that we're dealing with quite a lot recently. As they say, divide and conquer. Exactly.
Yep.
And when you think that maybe something's wrong with me, or maybe I'm, or to quote something from your podcast, have been dealt a bad hand.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Right.
that's why that was the reason, I'm sure, behind your podcast, and the same is similar is the reason behind mine. As we spoke with Vincent in the previous episode, that the point is to actually, maybe, as they say, plant a seed, to use such a phrase that.
Yeah. Well, the seed, it can be a solitary seed because no self-respecting farmer will just throw one seed into the ground because they're not stupid. They know
Yeah.
that the chances of that seed catching, they're slim. It's slim.
Yeah.
So you got to. That's why they have like entire uh, handfuls of seeds, and they just throw them around like that. So you have to do the same thing when you're fighting a war. You equip yourself with as many weapons as possible. You just don't go like with a fucking toothpick, you know. So that's what this is about. Now, since you mentioned, because I remember the being dealt a bad hand, is another racket. It's another racket, right? It's bullshit. It's a way for us to justify the position in which we find ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And to use their, so given free will, and to choose if you would stay in that position, or you will just make another choice this time.
Right. And there is no actually. I don't know if we've talked about free will, but it's a very juicy concept. Uh, I
It
don't
is,
think there
yeah.
is. I don't think there is such a thing as free will, but people think it is. So
I can agree with that, yeah. I can agree with that.
now,
And I see both perspectives, to for the people who say, "Oh no, there is," and to the other people who.
well, let's argue the one perspective that is for the people that say that yes, there is free will.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you argue that, and then, I mean, I'll let you defend that, and I'll argue it. So, tell me,
All right.
tell me, in your perspective, in your opinion, one way that proves that there is free will. Just one is all we need.
Well, I would first have to say that I was to on the other side of, as a choice, because I do believe that the possibility is quite big for the lack of free will, in a way, because those thoughts, they have to come from somewhere,
Right.
and that somewhere is all around us.
That's right. You're just defending
That's
my position.
that's the thing that I'm it was my choice as well, and that's why I don't even know how. At least right now, it doesn't pop in my head. An
Right. And the very simple answer to that is, if we know that everything we do is influenced by something else, someone else, some kind of conditioning, some kind of programming, some kind of uh, you know influence of some sort, right? If we know that, and we do, then where does free will come into play? I don't understand. There is no. We're never in a vacuum. Free will would work if you were born, because that would be interesting to see. Like, what would happen to a child born, putting in an incubator, and sealed from any kind of interaction for a few years, and see what would happen. Perhaps then would see what free. And I would argue that not even then, because the ideas and influences are energy, and energy is everywhere. Like, you can seal anyone from energetic influence, right? As I say, one of my mentors said to me once, when you are thinking, you are actually listening.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So there you go. So I was talking about the art. So that kind of thing, getting better and better and better by creating the art, started to ignite in me the question mark of what's happening here. Why is this happening? Why am I being inspired? Which led me to start doing research on the mind. And I started, of course, I came across the concept of hypnosis, which of course I knew, but I knew on a very superficial level, as most people do, based on the media, like movies or whatever. So I needed to find out if I could get taught that, if I could get hypnotic education.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I did find that source, because, I'm in New York after all. You can find anything. And I started delving deep and deep and deep and deeper and deeper, no pun intended, into that kind of thing. And then I realized that the art that I was creating was my subconscious communicating with the collective subconscious, if you will, and being instructed me to open up the doors, like open up the heart, because that's the moment where inspiration floods into who you are. And I realized then that the art that I was making was actually magic, was actually healing, was medicine. And the rest of it is history, as I say, because I started dedicating myself to creating creating and following as many of those visions as I could. And that led me into shamanic paths and magical paths and all this, because I realized what kind of link there is between all of those practices, right? Art in the ancient years, in the years of antiquity, art was sacred. Mm-hmm. Art was not like something you put in your fucking living room, so that it matches your couch. Art was sacred, meaning it was used for religious purposes, because it was known that art is magical and can help you change, can open you up to unbelievable realms. priorly unimaginable. So uh, it was perhaps, I don't know, like 19th or 20th century, or perhaps both, that started the decline of art as a means of decoration, like embellishment. And of course, I have to examine that from the perspective of the artist and the perspective of the hypno magician, and say, if I wanted to strip people of a major power that they could have access to, such as the creation of art, for example, what would I do to stop them taking this shit seriously? I would just ridicule the topic itself, and I would do it in a way where it would be inescapable. When anything is art, you can shit on a canvas and smear it all over and put it in a museum. Because believe me, it's happened. So the unconscious, collective unconscious, then becomes re-instructed with bullshit. It becomes programmed, it becomes conditioned to believe that that thing that I priorly knew and believed as a magical property, as magical properties, is now bullshit. It's something that, yeah, whatever. It's whatever. I will just piss on a canvas and then throw some paint on it and just go like that. And it's art. You know what I mean? Because art has been, of course, in a very ridiculous and toxic way, likened to expression. Expression doesn't equal art, okay? Like farting in your shorts is expression. It's an expression of your bodily functions, right? Mm-hmm. That doesn't make it art.
Yeah.
So then, in my view, I guess in my own informed view, if I could influence the status quo to completely cut off people from their source of magic, their source of magnificence, that's what I would do. And I mean, also, not coincidentally, ancient practices as such, what is being called magic or witchcraft or sorcery in these days, that have been strictly forbidden by all religious organizations. I wonder why. Because those kind of practices that are, of course, equal to shamanic practices as well, they are a means to heal yourself, communicate with your spirit, and raise yourself up, pick up yourself from being kneeling down and bowing for all your life, to stand up and face your, as one would say, your higher self.
Mm-hmm.
But a system of mental slavery and a system of mental collapse would not allow for that to happen, because God forbid people pick themselves up and they started realizing that they're not really slaves and that they are actually magnificent human beings that are here for a reason, because they have something to share. This is why they're here. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. So the nihilism also goes back into the same kind of outlook. Because you see, the whole philosophers came in and said, well, there's no point. It's just bullshit. Everything is just whatever. We're a speck of dust moving in the universe, within a universe, within a universe, within a universe. So it's pointless, man. But there's another way of looking at this, you see. And that way is I was born. I came out of like somewhere. Where the hell is that? I don't know, but it was somewhere. Into this plane, the 3D plane of existence. I came through something. And by through something, I don't mean your mom's vagina. Because that was just a door. But there was another realm that you came through. You opened the door, came through. That's what happened. No one can deny that. So a shaman once told me, do you have any idea the amount of energy that takes for a human being to manifest into the flesh? It's like, this is the most magnificent fucking magic sorcery that anyone could perform. Mm-hmm. It's like you take the most like lowly human being, like some kind of retarded homeless person, and they are amazing because the fact that they manifested like that out of seemingly nowhere, out of nothing, is an act of high magic. So you can't, as far as I'm concerned, you can't take that for granted, You can't. It would be sacrilege to do so. But be that as it may, that's what most people follow. That's the kind of thinking. That's the kind of course, they follow that because it's not their own. It's been implanted into them.
Of course.
And so I started dedicating my art, and that's what made me start to sell prints, canvas prints, because I realized that this is the kind of healing, this is the kind of magical intervention that more people need. And who am I to keep that within the hands of myself and the ones who can commission and pay thousands of dollars only, right? So that's what this is about on an artistic level, what I'm about. Because you see, and now I'm actually unleashing this other deeper aspect of it, which I call magical portraits, because a magical portrait is about creating a portrait in my usual mystical style, I guess one might say, that would have the likeness of the person who commissioned it, which means what? The person who commissioned it will look at this and be like, whoa, this is me? I am magnificent. You see, it's like looking into a magical mirror. That's why I call it a magical portrait, because then what happens? Everyday interaction with that portrait is instructing your subconscious, shut the fuck up and get on a new path. The right path, the path of awakening, which is the path of realizing what an incredible soul you really are, and that it's time you started acting as one. Make sense?
Absolutely.
So there you go. And there you have it, my friend.
And to actually people realized that it's really a matter of a choice, like it, and even though it might sound simple, it is simple, but it's not easy most of the time. Because
yep.
and you realize it was simple when you actually do make the step or do the thing that you knew you should do. And then when you look back, you say, it wasn't that hard, was it? And as you said on your podcast, that the next step you would have double the motivation, which was absolutely it's true, because you're feeding the subconscious mind in a way.
That's right. That's exactly right. And the more you feed it, the more it grows. You know, like a child, it grows into. It gets a different diet. You see, it gets a different diet than what it's used to. So it starts adjusting to a new reality,
Mm-hmm.
which is exactly what we need, though, isn't it?
Absolutely. But by the way, how much time do you have? Because
How much time do we need? I can go for a few minutes.
all right, no, just so I can adjust according. I
Yeah,
don't, I don't know if you have anything else planned or something, just so I know what
there's
kind of
always there's
what.
always something happening.
Yeah,
But
just so.
yeah, I mean, let's do it, man. How much time do you need? Just let's do another 20 minutes or whatever, whatever
All
you
right,
need.
okay. What about the? I'll start from there. That many times now when I look around and listening to you and reading and gathering as information as many places as possible, and I more and more understand how all you've been talking about since the episode 1 of your podcast, that programming is absolutely everywhere around us. And before, I was seeing some of them, but not all of them, I guess. Not that I'm seeing them, all of them now, probably, but the more I understand the topic, I literally see it's everywhere around us. Absolutely everywhere. Like, literally, like, and the more I see it, it's like, well, no wonder that people are so entranced. It's if you don't choose to actually get your head out of the sand and look around and see that you know it's everywhere, and it's so no surprise that I understand why people might fall into that you know trap, let's say.
Not might, they are falling into that trap
Yeah.
on a daily basis. And if you look at it as taking their heads out of the sand is one way to look at it. That's actually a lot easier, I think, than taking your head out of your ass. Because, when your head's up your ass, you are inclined to believe you're actually practicing yoga.
Absolutely, yeah. But it's fascinating how everywhere, like wherever if it's with the colors, with the shapes, with the music, with the everything,
That's right.
everywhere, in the supermarkets, in the malls, in the everywhere, on the billboards, or anywhere you can put some image, or some video, or some even
Yeah.
colors or shapes. And the other very interesting topic of symbols, which
Hmm.
I really find interesting. I don't know enough, that I mean, I don't know as much as I want to know, but that that what I know is really interesting, and makes me want to learn more and more on that topic.
Good. That's good. I mean, symbols are the language of the subconscious mind
Mhm.
anyway.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
if you're gonna, yeah, which is exactly the same thing as I was talking about with art, because art is it belongs in the family of symbols. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's any image is pictographic. It's symbolic.
Yeah.
So that's what the child speaks.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't speak English, you see, or any other language. It speaks emotion, and art invokes emotion.
The same way as music does.
That's right. That's why art and music are one and the same thing. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
musicians call themselves artists.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they say that I would put that for the art as well. That they say that dancing is what music looks like, and I think that can apply to art as well.
Hmm. Of course.
And
I mean,
also, yeah,
look, it depends on, of course, by saying that, let's just make sure we mention that doesn't mean that all art is healing. I mean, we talked about that, right? The
yeah, yeah.
art has been degraded to the point of absolute disgustingness, and
Mm-hmm.
that equally has its own reflection on the way that the subconscious mind will respond, right? So it doesn't mean just because we call it art that it's beneficial.
Of course.
So that's an important distinction. But it does mean that it could destroy you a lot faster than language. See, it could
Hmm.
uplift you, but it could also destroy you.
Yep.
So you got to be very discerning in the way that you expose yourself to that kind of stuff, you know. And the way you do that is by paying attention to how you feel when you're exposed to it. Right? If you listen to music, or if you're looking at something, watching, I don't know, like a movie, a video, a poster, a fine art piece, and it makes you pissed off, then there's something wrong with that kind of thing. You know what I mean? That's not um, an influence that can help you.
Mm-hmm.
If it makes you inspired to become better, to become more, then that's a good sign.
And we know that we're surrounded by symbols and by the colors that go with those symbols. And as the same way as music is affecting our minds, the same way colors affect our minds, because they're, in a way, they're vibration.
Of course.
Same as music, same as everything else, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, because emotional manipulation is the name of the game at the end of the day, right? This
Mm-hmm.
is why you see, like, you go on social media, you see people being so emotionally engaged, you know, like usually angry or disappointed, or, you know, whatever. Like, it's very rare that you get an uplifting sort of message by scrolling on your whatever device. It's always something that's like, oh, how dare they? God damn it, this is bullshit. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So, and people engage. We all fall into that, you know, from time to time. We all fall into that trap. I mean, I've fallen into that trap too, knowing. I mean, I know it so well, and it's, I'm still falling in it. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah,
how
yeah, yeah.
powerful it is.
Exactly, yeah. And you're writing, and the same time you're thinking to yourself, I know how that's gonna end. Why am I why am I even doing that? But you're not stopping. You keep writing, and
Yeah, exactly. Because it's a release. Because you have been engaged in some sort of sorcery. It's a
Exactly.
frequency manipulation. Someone is fucking with you. You know what I mean? So uh, you have to either break that spell right there, or if you allow it to continue, it will take you down that path. There's no other, you know what I mean? It's like when you play Russian roulette, you know what I mean? You could say, oh, what the fuck am I doing right now? And just put the gun down, get the fuck out. Or you're like, okay, maybe that bullet is not going to be the one. Which is what most people do. Most people keep playing the game because they think they have to, because they think that makes a difference. No. Playing the game doesn't make a difference. It makes it more of the same. What makes a difference is you choosing another route. That's why it's always important to remember that when you're being hated by someone, right? If you got haters, you don't try to, someone says, oh, Vasil's an asshole. You don't, go engage with them. Be like, no, man, I'm not an asshole. I'll prove it to you. Right?
Yeah.
Because engaging will get you to fall into the same kind of loop.
Yeah.
Instead of engaging, you start or you keep doing what you do on your own path. By virtue of not being stopped, by virtue of growing, despite the challenges, is the way for you to make a difference. Anything else is just falling into the loop. You know what I mean? It's like when you're tripping on whatever, like shrooms or LSD, whatever. You know what happened? Because it's actually being in a situation like that. I mean, it doesn't happen to me anymore because I've trained myself through ayahuasca for many years and all this. So I don't get distracted. But if you give someone mushrooms out of nowhere, you'll see that they're like constantly like that. And you just show them something, and then they'd be like, "Oh shit, this is amazing." And then the next second, you show them something else, and they'd be like, "Oh, the narrative will have changed entirely." And you see, everything is an instructor. Everything instructs. As far as I'm concerned, that's why I learned from all this stuff, all of it. And this is a very a great way to get an illustration of how you live your life, because most people do that. That's how they behave, as if they are tripping on a daily basis, day in and day out. They're tripping because someone can always distract the shit out of them. You see, like you're doing your thing, you're like, oh, I'm dedicated. Like someone sends you a text. Oh, dude, what the fuck? Where are you? We're waiting for you. It's beers. And you put that other thing that you were working on aside to respond. Come on, man. I'm just, no, Dad, don't be a fucking asshole. Come on. Yeah, you can do that thing later. Right? And that's one of the good ones, the more, that's one of the more innocent ones, if you will. There are so many ways to get distracted and completely go down very dark paths. And most people fall into those ways on a daily basis, day in and day out, even when they're sleeping, actually.
100%. I totally agree on that.
Now, that may sound a little bleak, you know what I mean? Sometimes I talk like that with people, and people are like, dude, what would I don't want a life like that. Fuck it. I don't want to have to deal with this darkness, right? They see it like, if it's that bad, why do I want to look at it? Okay. I'm like, cool. That's fine. So what you're saying is, if you find yourself awake in a Turkish prison being butt raped 24 hours a day, why would you want to look at that? Why would you want to see yourself being abused in such a way? you might as well, like, take a pill and relax while it's happening. Not me. But, I would be like, there's got to be a way out of here, and I will exhaust every single possibility to find that way. But I do know, we all do, that most people are not like that. They will take the pill any time of the day, any chance they get. They'll take that pill, and that pill is whatever, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, let's watch Netflix. Oh, let's get drunk. Oh, let's, go watch porn.
Let's just say it's not the red pill.
It's not the red pill.
It's not the red pill, yeah.
Look, everything, and to sum it all up, as we conclude this, we should do this another time, because as you know, it's the ideas are endless.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything you do on a daily basis that doesn't make you feel inspired and uplifted is negative for you.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I don't mean like, like, for example, yeah, if you go work out, I'm not saying if it's challenging. I'm not saying if it's painful. I'm saying at the end of whatever it is that you do, if you don't feel like you have just lifted yourself up a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
then you wasted your time and your energy.
Exactly, yeah.
Right? So you were about to ask me, so what's my mission at this point in life? I'm glad you asked. My mission is to use my skills and talents to help people develop a better, more evolved, more magical, more kick-ass self-image. That's what I'm really about. Because I talk about, like I'm a hypnotherapist and shaman and all this kind of good stuff. But I talk of myself as an artist first, because it is the artist that drives the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, the other modalities are just mechanics. They're just they're just hired hands. So the artist is the avatar.
Mm-hmm.
And the other modalities are just helping out. It's like having a maid, or having a gardener, or having a doctor in the house, or you know what I mean, this sort of thing. That's what all these modalities are, as far as I'm concerned. And I channel most of that kind of thing, believe it or not. I don't just sit there and think about it. It just comes to me. Mm-hmm. As far as I'm concerned, you need a central focus in your life, like who your avatar will be, who is the driver of the bus. Okay, and then that avatar will need help from around, and that help can come in the form of extra skills that you develop, or in the form of other people that come in to provide the skills that you don't have. Either way. Mm-hmm. Right? But what is the most important part is knowing who your avatar is. Knowing like who the heaven you are. Who you really are. And who you really are is what excites, because that's another question, of course. But who the fuck am I? I don't know. Which is a good question. In my view, who you are is what excites the hell out of you. Okay, I want to say excites. I don't mean arouse. It's a different kind of excitement.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing that you dream of being, and every time you be that thing, it's the greatest orgasm of them all.
Mm-hmm.
That. And if people don't have that, then they need to search deeper inside, or, if they have searched at all, that is. But that's all I have to say about that today. Do you have any other comments?
I couldn't agree more with what you just said, and I guess I can add to that it's as I said, it's always a choice, and it's always but behind that choice we need that why, the so famous stuff,
That's right.
the why, because it's really, if you don't want it enough, if you're not ready to do what you have to do for that thing, that means maybe as you said, maybe you don't want it that much or bad
Hmm.
enough, or maybe it's not your thing. Maybe you thought about that's your thing. Maybe you thought about it in high school or in university, or maybe your parents taught you, but you at the end of the day you're not that. So you can always choose, and before you choose you need to get rid of the distraction and the things that steal your mind, keeping it instead of you keeping it still, so you can actually get to those answers that you're looking for, because as we know, we all have them in us.
That's right. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Good. I think with that's a good ending of that episode, which it was a great pleasure as always to exchange ideas with you and to hear your opinion, because if it wasn't something that I find interesting, I wouldn't listen to your podcast. I mean, we all know that there's millions of podcasts out there, and what you choose to listen to, I mean, let's say it has quite an influence on you. So
Absolutely.
I'd like to think so as well, and uh, I guess your website was Zeroism Art.
Well, I have a couple different ones. The main hub
Yeah,
is zeroism.com.
yeah, where people, I guess, can find
All
most of
kinds of other, yes.
most of
Hmm.
your work. Yeah.
That's right. And they can get into different stores that I have, and or converse with me. You know what I mean? Follow me on social media, and let's talk. I'm always glad to talk, as you know.
Yeah, yeah, and of course, your mind is trying to kill your podcast,
To kill
which
you,
is,
yes, exactly. Yes.
yeah, uh, which is available in all, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and in YouTube, with
That's right.
video version of the shows for the people who enjoy watching the people talk.
Huh? It's funny. The YouTube version is actually funny. I enjoy it because there's a lot of animation that happens when we talk, me and Vincent. Usually me more than Vincent. So if you want to catch the expression of something that I'm saying,
Yeah, 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 and
yeah,
it,
it's a
it
good way.
is it is different. Yeah, if when you I enjoy that as well sometimes too. When I have the time and just to sit and watch something, I do prefer it, because you it's different. Everybody knows that it's different when you see the people, their face expressions and all that. And so yeah, I mean, that was That was very enjoyable to spend that time with you talking. And as to everyone, go check that podcast. Your mind is trying to kill you podcast. It's you can, as I said, you can always get something out of each episode, and they are keep going strong. I need to catch up with the, I think now with the last few, 2 or 3 or so, maybe.
Yeah, there's always a lot of things being like there's a lot of a plethora of value thrown into
Yeah,
a specific topic. It's not just about the topic itself, because we circle around many times concepts that have been revisited, and we examine them from different perspectives. So, yeah, thank you, brother. I appreciate you, and it's been an honor for me as well to be here. Anytime you wanna. You want to do some mental push-ups? I'm available.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, we will definitely do that again. So I guess until next time, and with the people listening, same. Until next week with another episode of the podcast. And take care, think out of the box, and enjoy. Bye bye.